The Mystery of the Cupboard by Lynne Reid Banks. Chapter 13. The Fall. "Dad, can we go to the bank today?" His father continued painting for a moment or two. Omri was standing in the doorway of his dad's big new studio. It was the next day, Monday. He and Patrick had stayed awake, talking for hours last night. And Patrick, in fact, was still sound asleep, but Omri's brain was seething and he couldn't wait. Now he'd decided, and he'd pursued his father out of his studio first thing after breakfast. Out to his studio first thing after breakfast. His dad turned slightly, his eyes and his mind still on his painting, which was of a large, colorful, impressionistic rooster. Omri thought his paintings had changed a lot from the somber roofscapes and still lifes of gardening tools he had usually painted before they'd moved out to London. "What bank?" he asked, as if he were somewhere else. "The bank, Dad, your bank, the bank where my package is." "Ah, that bank. I thought you meant the one whereon the wild thyme grows." "Sorry? Never mind. I thought the package was supposed to be kept until your death or something. Wasn't that the idea?" "It was the idea, but I've changed my mind." "What's in there, Omri? I'm burning with curiosity." "It's a secret, Dad." "Oh, okay. Well, there's no problem about that. There's no problem about it. We'll go a bit later, eh? I can't leave this now." Frustrated, Omri drifted away. The studio was in the yard, which was dotted with hens. The 5 chicks that had been new when they arrived were now half grown. They seemed to be running around squeaking rather frantically. There was no sign of their mother. He wandered idly into the barn to look for her. She was there, pecking away, perfectly silent now, although until yesterday she had kept up a constant gentle clucking to call the chicks to her. She was lying low, not doing anything to let them know where she was. Nature, thought Omri. Hens knew the right times to leave their children to get on with it on their own. Did human mothers do that? Would his mother run off and hide in the barn one day when the 3 of them got big and she'd had enough looking after them? He was just wandering out again when he heard something. It was a squeaking noise not unlike the one the chicks made. Were there more chicks that he didn't know about? If so, they were high up. Over his head somewhere, he climbed a wooden ladder fixed to the back wall, to a kind of hayloft. There was no more than a few boards laid across the rafters. His father had forbidden them to go up there, because he said the boards weren't safe. But there was a hole like a trap door where the ladder went, and Omri put his head through, looking for the source of the squeaking. His eyes roved the dusty space between the boards and the roof. There was no hay here now, except a few scraps in a dark corner, where the sloping roof and the boards met. The squeaking was coming from there. If it was the chicks, if some daft hen had made her nest up here, they might be killed falling off. There was no sign of a bird anyway. Maybe it was rats? Did rats squeak? Of course they did, but something told Omri it wasn't rats. Now he was nearer. The squeaking sounded more like, well, mewing. A dead hope revived itself as Omri crawled cautiously along the boards and reached into the little heap of old hay. His fingers touched fur, warm moving balls of it. He heaved himself closer on his elbows. The boards sagged ominously, but he wasn't aware of it. There were 5 kittens, by no means newborn, 2 black and 3 black and white. One half of their parentage at least was quite obvious. Some deep knot that had been half forgotten in the pit of Omri's stomach came gently untied. He drew a deep breath and let it out in a silent, joyous laugh. "You fiend kits," he said aloud. "Where are you?" He lay in ambush for 20 minutes. Then she appeared cautiously through the ladder opening. She had always loved climbing ladders. She stopped dead when she saw him. He didn't move, just stared at her. If she'd really gone feral, she might pretend not to know him, might run, abandon her kittens even, or perhaps she'd fly at him to protect them. But no, she walked daintily toward him along one board, in the semi-darkness, head up, ignoring him, straight past into the nest where the squeaking reached a crescendo until she lay down in a languid crescent shape, and the kittens fastened themselves to her. She lay there, staring at Omri through sleepy eyes as if mocking him. If cats could look smug, she would have. "You little beast," said Omri, "you're not feral. You just ran off to punish us, and then you crept up here to be private for having your kittens." She came back for her milk every night. She'd learned to hunt rabbits and keep out of sight, and now she was independent. She didn't need him anymore. But that didn't make him love her less. He longed to stroke her, but she had a certain look that told him he'd better not. He felt wildly happy. He backed along the boards and down the ladder. Then he raced across the yard and the lane to the house. "Kits is okay! I've found her!" he shouted as he burst into the house. Everyone in the family was pleased. Tony and Patrick were quite excited. "Good old Kitsa, can we see the kittens?" "Well, I don't want to disturb her. We can't all go up there at once, just one at a time, okay?" Tony and Guion went up one after the other, had a peep, and came down again. Then Patrick went up, with Omri behind him. "When are you going to the you-know-where?" Patrick whispered, as he went through the opening. As soon as Dad's ready to take me," Omri said. "Can't wait. Where are the little Kitsa cats, then? I'll just..." It all happened remarkably quickly. As Patrick, who was bigger than any of the other boys, put his weight along the boards, they gave a short creak and sagged sharply under his weight, and before he could grab hold of anything, there was a very loud crack, and he vanished in a cloud of hay and wood dust. Omri was to feel pangs of guilt later, because his first thought was for Kitsa's nest, but she had made it where the boards rested on a cross rafter, and apart from the end of one of the boards, jerking a few inches upward as it broke in the middle, the kittens were undisturbed, though Kitsa instinctively leaped aside. Patrick, however, was not so lucky. He landed first on Tony, who was directly underneath. This broke his fall. Nevertheless, he lay stunned on the concrete floor. "He's dead! Is he dead? He's dead!" was Guion's first reaction. "Ow, shoot! My head," moaned Tony, only he didn't say shoot. Omri jumped down the ladder without wasting time looking at Patrick, belted across the yard to his father's studio. Dad! Patrick's fallen! He's hurt!" he yelled. An hour later, Patrick was in the hospital bed after having a broken arm set. He had to stay in it for head x-rays. He was awake, but dozy. Not all that dozy, though. "Don't mind me," he said to Omri. "Get it, then come and tell me everything." "I'll bring the cash box here tomorrow," said Omri. "No," said Patrick. "Don't bring it here. Too dangerous." "What do you mean, dangerous?" "Well, haven't you thought? The chest worked just like the cupboard. If the cash box is the same, and it has got little people in it, when you open it with the magic key, you'll bring them to life." On the way home, Omri sat in the back of the car, frowning, full of this new thought. The contents of the cash box were wrapped. He would have to act quickly, or the little people might suffocate when he unlocked the box. If they were there at all. In the past, Omri had usually been careful to bring to life only one little person at a time, and only when he had great need of them, like Matron, for instance, when Little Bear was injured. There had always been the problem of explaining to them why they were here, why they were small, and so on. No easy task. Some thought they must be drunk, some dreaming, some, Little Bear, his American Indian, for instance, that Omri was a spirit. Later, they got used to the strange situation. Well, at least these little people of Jessica Charlotte's had been brought before. No explanation would be necessary, but they might be anybody from any time, and there were almost certainly several of them who, the moment he turned the key, would all come to life at once. And that is the end of Chapter 13.